Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will learn a new concept, which is how to basically pass data from the HTML page to the server. So the first thing which you need to understand in web development is that you always need to pass in data from the web page to the server, and the server is actually going to either store the data or it is going to process the data and return us some result. So for this lecture, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a new HTML page, and we will basically pass in some data to that page, and that page is going to accept the data and it is going to pass it on to the server. So we are going to learn exactly how to do that. So for that we will be using the get and post methods, which are both the HTTP methods which are actually used to basically send the data from the server so that the server is able to manage that data. So let's go ahead and let's first go to the folder which is Flask site, which is this folder right here. And now let's go ahead and create a new file in it. And let's open this thing up and let's save this thing as let's say login.html. So as we are designing an HTML file, let's save it as all files, hit save. And as you could see, now we have the login.html file. Now let me just open this thing up with Sublime Text. Okay, so right now we have the login.html file as an empty file. Now let's go ahead and write in some code into it so that we will be able to accept some things from the user. So let's design a form in which the user will enter his age, and depending upon his age, that age value is going to be forwarded to the server, and the server is going to return back that value and it is going to display it on the web page. So let's go ahead and type in the HTML tags. So HTML, so if you type in HTML, Sublime Text is automatically going to generate this code for you. So once this code is generated, we are basically concerned with the HTML body. So let's go inside here and let me just increase the font size. Okay, so the first thing which we are going to do here is that we are basically going to create a form. So in the body tag, let me just type in form and let's give it an action. So the action is nothing but the form is actually going to perform the action. So whenever the user actually hits the submit button, something should happen. So what we want to do here is that we actually want to make this form present at the login URL. So we will simply type in http:// and we will type in localhost, which is nothing but the address. So even if you type in 127.0.0.1 over here, still it is going to work the same. So once you type in the localhost, you actually need to specify the exact port number, which is 5000, and let's give a slash and type in login. And also you need to add a method. So the method which we are going to use for this is going to be the post method. So once you have this thing with you, the next thing which you need to do is that you obviously need to design the form elements. So if you are new to HTML, then this might be a little bit difficult for you, but I assume that most of you already know what HTML is and how to design HTML forms. So let me just type in the paragraph tag and let's type in something like enter your name. So this is going to be the text which is going to appear on the form. And now let's accept this thing in the form of an input. So let me just type in p tag, and inside it let me just type in the input tag. So input type is going to be text, and the name of this is going to be, let's say, nm. Let's say nm stands for name. And once this thing is done, the only thing which you want after this is you need to have a button so that when the user clicks this button, this data, that is nothing but the name of that user, is going to be passed to the server. So let's type in p again and let's type in the input type, and this time the input type is going to be submit. So we type input type equals submit. The name is absolutely not going to be there, so instead we will have a value here. So that value is going to be submit as well. Okay, so once this thing is done, you're pretty much good to go. And also make sure that you close these tags and your form actually ends here. So this file is nothing but the login.html file. So if you open up your directory, and if you open this thing up right now, let me just take it over here on my second screen. So this is what you will get. So this is the form which we have designed right now. So it says enter your name, it has a text box, and it has a submit button. So right now if you basically type something in and if you hit submit button, it says unable to connect, because we actually want to now connect to the localhost server, which is nothing but the Flask server which we have at port number 5000. So the next task would be to basically write in the Python script to basically process the form data and to pass it when we actually hit that button. So what we actually want to do here is that whenever the user enters the name and clicks that particular button, he should be redirected to a new page, and that data should be actually passed to the new page. So now what we need to do is that we need to open up the app.py file. So let me just open it up with Sublime Text. And here what we are going to do is that we are going to write the code from scratch. So I'll delete everything in between these lines. And now let's go ahead and let's create a route for the success. So success is when the user enters his name and hits the button. So that is actually success. And for that, let's create a URL which says welcome and the username. So for example, if I'm going to type in my name and hit the submit button, I will be prompted to a success page which says welcome and my name. So first let's go ahead and create the route for it. So we type app.route. And to this we basically pass in the URL as /success/ the name of the person. So we are going to take a name as in the form of variable. So we type in name in between these kind of brackets, and right after it let's define a function which is called as success, and let's pass in the value of name to it. Okay, so in this function what we want to do is that we want to take the name of the user, the name which is entered by the user, and we actually want to display out that name with a welcome message. So we simply type in return, and in here we type in welcome, type %s for string, and then again %name. So this function is simply going to return the name value. And now once this thing is done, what we want to do is that we also want to write the code for the login page. So we go right ahead here and type in app.route, and this is going to be for login. So /login is going to be the URL, and we also pass in the methods to this function as well. So the methods are going to be the post and the get method. So I'm going to simply type in post as the first parameter, and the second parameter is going to be get. So once you have these parameters, you could actually use those parameters in the function below. So you could type in def to associate the function with this URL right here, and let's name this function as login. And we don't need to pass anything over here to login. Now what we do is that we check if the request method is equal to post, and if the request method is equal to post, what we want to do is that we want to redirect the user to the success URL right here. So in order to check that, we type if request dot methods, this should be method, if request dot method, if this is equal to the post method. So for the post method, the first thing which we want to do here is that we actually want to extract the name value. So to extract name value, let's take a variable to save the name value. So let's type in username equals, and to get the value, what we do is that we type request. So we type request dot form, as we are getting the information from the form, and here in this parameter you actually want to specify from which input type you want to get the value. So we want to get the value from this input type where the name is equal to nm. So we return back here, and in here we type in nm in single quotes. So this is going to get the value, and once we have the value, we simply need to return this name value to this success URL right here. So for that we type in return, and we are going to use the redirect function. So we type in redirect, and also we will use the URL for function. So we type in URL for, and then to this we pass in the success, comma, and make sure that you have success enclosed in single quotes. So success, comma, you also want to pass in the name. So that is going to be name equals, and here let's type in username because we actually want to pass in this thing. So we type name equals username. So this is actually going to pass in the username to it. Okay, so once this thing is done, and actually I did a mistake, there should be a colon here and there should be a proper indentation over here as well. So sorry for that. And now once the post method is done, let's do it for the another method. So we type in else. In other cases, what we want to do is the same thing. So the first thing which we want to do is that we actually want to get the username, but in this case we get the username by using request.arguments.get method. So we type in username equals request.args, and args actually stands for arguments, dot get, and then you need to specify which particular thing you want to get. So we actually want to get nm, which stands for name. So when we get this, we actually want to return the same thing. So I'm going to simply copy this thing, go back here and paste it right over here. So this is also going to do the same thing, but the only difference between the post method and the other method is that instead of extracting the values from the request.form, we extract the values by typing in request.args.get and the parameter name which we want to extract. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So now what we need to do is that we need to save this code and we need to open up our terminal to start up our server. So let's open up command prompt over here and let me navigate to the folder. So that should be cd desktop and cd this is Flask site. Okay, so one more important thing which I wanted to tell you is that whenever you actually go into this folder, you always need to make sure that you need to start the virtual environment before you execute any code here. So right now the virtual environment is not activated, because whenever the virtual environment is activated, you will get a sign here which says env. So in order to activate virtual environment, first go to the directory which is the root directory for your site, then go to cd env and then go to scripts. So let's type in cd scripts and here just type in activate, and that is going to activate your virtual environment, and you will be able to see this sign right here which says that the virtual environment is now activated. So once the virtual environment is activated, we basically return back to the root directory, and now to start the app we type in python app.py and hit enter. So now the app is up and running. And now once the app is up and running, what you need to do is that you need to go to the directory and open up a login.html. So simply double click on it and let me just pull this up over here. So as you could see right now it says to enter my name. So let me just type in my name as Ashutosh, and when I hit submit, it is going to take a while. Okay, so we got an error interestingly, and let's check where the error actually is. And we actually have an error at line number 12. So let me check that. Okay, so this is line number 12. Okay, so I got my error. So the mistake is that we have used the request method, but we actually forgot to import the request method from this module right here. So what we simply need to do is that we need to give a comma and type in request, and that is going to solve our error. So let me just save the code once again and let me restart the server as well. And when we go back to this page, refresh this thing, and when I again type in some name and when I hit submit, as you could see it says welcome and my name. So that is how we could successfully pass in some data to a form, and that data actually gets passed to the server. So as you could see, this is a normal HTML form, And as you could see, this URL is simply the URL for the HTML page. But when I hit submit, as you could see, the same username now actually gets passed to the server. So you could make out from the URL that this thing is a server and it's just not a common HTML page. So that's basically how we pass data from an HTML page to a server in Flask by using the post method. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.